Live from Hollywood, it's Paranormal Tonight. I'm Mark Summers, and now, here's your host, Dan Harary.
Dan Harary, that's me. Oh, thank you, Mark Summers. I haven't seen Mark Summers in a while. He's in New York doing a play on Broadway. Mark Summers is a very dear friend of mine. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Live from Hollywood. It's Paranormal Tonight. I am Dan Harary. Technically, this is live from Beverly Hills. I know I cheat on the title, but I think it's funny. This is my office in Beverly Hills. I've been a Hollywood publicist for well over 40 years, and I'm the author of a book about Hollywood called Flirting with Fame, right here, my green book, and a UFO sci-fi novel about benevolent aliens who come to save us all called After They Came, right here. They're both on Amazon. And every week my mother yells at me if I don't promote them. So, Mom, that was for you. Just real quick, I have been involved with the promotion and publicity for Contact in the Desert 2024. This year, it will be May 30th through June 3rd in Indian Wells, California. We have over 70 speakers, the top UFO researchers and experts from around the world. We're expecting thousands of people. It's the 10-year anniversary, contactinthedesert.com. Please get your tickets soon. They're going fast, and you want to be there. If you're interested in this field, you want to be there. Contactinthedesert.com. Today, we have a very special lady on. I met her a year ago, exactly a year ago, last contact, and she and I have become friends. And I will read her little intro right now. UFO researcher and author Katie Paige has personal ties to a High Strangeness Ranch in Colorado, now known as the Rocky Mountain Ranch. In UFO folklore, it was known as the Clearview Ranch, and it predates the infamous Skinwalker Ranch by over a decade. This is what motivated her interest in ufology, to find answers to her experiences and to try to uncover the truth as to what was happening there. Katie has appeared on numerous TV and radio shows, including History Channel's Beyond Skinwalker, UFO Witness, Gaia's Beyond Belief with George Noory, of course, Ancient Aliens, Small Town Monsters, On the Trail of UFO's Night Visitors, and she was also featured in Ron James's film Accidental Truth, UFO Revelations. And just a quick aside, I am currently working with Ron James as his publicist for his the next version of Accidental Truth, the sequel. It's called Accidental Truth Next, and that will be coming out this summer. Katie conducts independent investigations and research through her Rocky Mountain Ranch Research Foundation. She's been a presenter at various conferences. She's appeared on radio shows and podcasts such as George Noory's Coast to Coast, with George Knapp, I should say, Spaced Out Radio, UAP Studies podcast, and many, many more. Katie's the author of this book, which she gave me last year at Contact, right here, if you can see this, Letters of Love and Light, 4 Decades of UFO Encounters, Experiences, and Sightings Shared with Ufologist R, Leo Sprinkle Ph.D., and we'll get to this book in a few minutes. Katie's currently writing her second book, The Rocky Mountain Ranch, Crafts, Cattle, Cryptids, and Cover-Ups. Katie holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Visual Communications, and she lives near Woodland Park, Colorado. Please welcome, Race, let's bring her in, my new friend, Katie Paige.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Hey, Dan, thanks for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure.
Awesome the work you're doing, all the work you're doing for Contact in the Desert, for Hollywood Disclosure. It's fabulous. It's important work. So thank you for all you do.
That's very sweet. So, Katie, when I met you, I was a newbie. Okay, my book had just.
I don't believe that for a minute.
I've only known this. All right, so my book, After They came out March 1st last year, and after that, I met everyone and befriended everyone, including you and Steve Bassett, and he and I created the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. So within the past year of my life changed completely. Before that, no one on the planet in the ufology world, no one knew me. And now
it's a tidal wave. We're all like, wow.
I know. So it's really been remarkable. Oh, hey, CJ. Hey, CJ's a good friend of mine.
Hey, CJ, that's sweet.
It's very sweet. So, Katie, let's see. Just first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are now, what you like to do. Just a little lighthearted start to the
Yeah, a
conversation.
little lighthearted start. I mean, I am the mother of 5 adults and 2 grandkids. So, I have my degree, like you mentioned, in visual communications. So, spent the vast majority of my life at racetracks, drag racing tracks. My ex-husband is still a race car driver, raced funny cars and dragsters. So, raised 5 little ones, 4 boys and a daughter, and had a lot of unusual things happen to me really my whole life. And like so many of us do, we put it on the back burner because we're busy with life, paying the mortgage and doing life. And these questions never left me. And so in 2012, I became a field investigator for the Mutual UFO Network. I came right in as a field investigator and just did a deep dive in everything. And you would think after all these years, you'd have more answers, but that's not the case. It's like more questions keep popping up. But I enjoy roller skating. I just started roller skating again. So that's been fun. There's a little rink here in Cripple Creek, Colorado. And so I try to go every Friday. I enjoy roller skating. I enjoy adventures and going out. We just got back from Wyoming and I love archives and research and all that. So I stay pretty busy.
That's very cool. How old are your
Yeah.
grandchildren? How old are the 2 grandkids?
One is 4 and one is 1.
The-
Yeah, a boy and a girl. Yeah.
Can the 4-year-old roller skate with you, or too
Not
young?
yet, but he's learning to ice skate. So he
Oh.
wants, Dad was a hockey player, so he's going to have Christian be hockey, get into
That's
hockey.
very, very cool.
Yeah,
That's
it's fun.
great. All right. So obviously you have a remarkable story to tell. You're known to have a personal connection to the High Strangeness Ranch in Colorado, like I said at the beginning.
Right.
And just for those of you who don't know this, Dr. J. Allen Hynek in the 70s coined the term high strangeness, which I think is just a remarkably
Right.
perfect. Isn't that remarkably perfect?
Well, it's so important. It fits so much because I think, and it's still to this day, and I'm guilty of this as well. And it wasn't just recently until kind of Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. This book right here kind of came out and talked about these hitchhiker effects that often happen at these locations of high strangeness. But I compartmentalized all these different phenomena, from Sasquatch in this box and paranormal in that box and UFOs in that box, and I think they're all intertwined and connected. It took me a while to get there, but I do believe that's the case. So high strangeness is very appropriate. So thank you, J. Allen Hynek.
Yeah, it's really such a remarkably great term. So,
Yeah.
your first experience or connection to the Rocky Mountain Ranch was, I believe, was in your childhood, and it was through your mother's boyfriend, if that's correct. So, why don't you tell us
That's correct. Yeah.
about that
That's
era
correct.
of your life?
Right. So we moved to Colorado. My mom worked for United Airlines. They moved their training facility out here in 1970. 73, she divorces my father. Shortly after, she meets a gentleman at work and starts dating him. He's the owner of the ranch property. He had 3 sons. So the 2 younger of the sons lived with us during the week to attend a larger school district out here in Colorado, the Cherry Creek School District. So, we'd go back and forth. And bring the boys back and forth to the ranch on the weekends. We'd spend some time there on the weekends. But what's interesting is I never knew, or my sister or anybody knew, this ranch was ever investigated. It was in fact a big kind of family secret. And we'll kind of get to the night where we were threatened and warned never to talk about what's happening out there. So just wasn't talked about very much. We never knew anybody knew anything about it until one day in 2013, before the popular series, The Skinwalker Ranch. I picked up this book called Hunt for the Skinwalker by Clearview, Ph.D. and George Knapp. And I start reading in this book about other hot spots, and I came across where they're starting to talk about a ranch in Colorado. Well, I knew the strange dynamic of the family, and this is where I learned about Dr. Leo Sprinkle, Ph.D., investigating it. APRO actually did a big investigation, and Leo was part of that. And for those of you who don't know who Dr. Leo Sprinkle was, he was a pioneer in the field. We lost him, unfortunately, in 2021. He was a gem of a man, and he was into past life research and hypnosis. He was a psychologist out of the University of Wyoming. And for me, it was a 2.5-hour drive. So Dr. Leo was old school. I got his address from the state director at the time, Doug Wilson, wrote him a letter, got a response letter very promptly from him. And it wasn't the next week I was down there in his office digging out the files on the ranch. Also, John Schuessler, who is one of the founding fathers of MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, bestowed upon me the original briefing document from APRO. So to say that I was shocked to learn about the ranch and that it was actually investigated was an understatement. It was phenomenal and really validating for me and my memories, because I'm 9 to 12 years old during these years. My sister's 6 years older. She's a teenager. And for both of us, it's just been this lifelong journey of uncovering all these documents and other witnesses. So
that's terrific. In your book,
yeah.
and I want to talk about your book, but I read something here that I really liked. You asked Dr. Leo, do you believe that the paranormal and the ET phenomena are connected? And he goes, absolutely, yes, absolutely they are, which is what you were saying earlier. I've had numerous paranormal experiences with poltergeists and my dead father visiting me in my bedroom. What's your feeling with all, how are all these things interconnected, do you think?
Right. I think that, and I know there's been PhD studies even back to the day of Freudian days. And there's books about it. I have 3 of them on my shelf. I should have grabbed the names of them, but it talks about disassociation and having paranormal experiences. And not only just paranormal, like and say ghosts, but UFO encounters and the like, Bigfoot encounters, and it makes a lot of sense for me psychologically. Whether you disassociate through meditation, through trauma, through near-death experiences, we disassociate and leave our bodies for different reasons. It can even be drug-induced through DMT or whatnot, right? People have altered states of consciousness. And I think once you reach those alternate states of consciousness, you're connecting into another realm, so to speak. And I think it's twofold. I think once you make that connection, that connection's made. And for me, I had a lot of trauma as a young kid, so I don't know if that played a role or not. But once that connection's made, I think that the second part of that is we can choose to open that door and be open to it and explorative with it, or we can choose to close it and just, I don't want to deal with that, and kind of not paying any attention to it. So I think you need to pay attention to what's happening to be aware, but also have that kind of that connection to the other side or the other realms. And that's how I think they're connected. Yeah.
I think that's a very good answer. I've had numerous experiences during sleep. So, okay, when you said, leaving your body or travel, I'm convinced that I travel when I sleep, because when I wake up in the morning, I know I've been to other places, and I've had that my friends used to say, Danny, you have the most incredible dreams. I go, I know, my dreams are unbelievable. Like I'm living movies every night. But
it's you're more exhausted from being asleep.
Yeah. When I wake up, Katie, I'm like, oh, I'm so tired,
Tired, right.
But I have had several paranormal things during daytime as well. But I like what you said, dissociation, or maybe being in a higher plane. Do you think maybe ETs, Bigfoot, ghosts, all these things, do you think they're I think that perhaps all of this is interdimensional, because to me, that would explain a lot of things.
It sure would. And you have to remember too, just like I think David Icke talked about, how we can just see this little sliver. Our 5 senses are so limited. So perhaps these are just out of the realm of what's visible to all of us. There's so much. I don't remember what the show was called, but years ago there was a show and it was like the microscopic things, right? And I couldn't watch it because just knowing what's all over everything, I'm like, oh my gosh, talk about germaphobe. But you mentioned a really important thing, this lucid dreaming, or having these very vivid dreams, very active dreams where you're almost exhausted when you wake up. This was so prevalent. And what happened with this book is I went to the archives in Laramie, Wyoming, American Archive Center. Anybody can go there. That's where Dr. Leo Sprinkle has all his works there. And I went there to get all the information on the ranch, but I got lost in boxes and boxes and boxes of letters that people wrote to Dr. Sprinkle about their experiences. And of course, there's letters in there as well from professionals like Linda Howe J. Allen Hynek, and even Phil Klass, who was the big debunker back in the day, and I'm just gobbling all this stuff up. Oh, like, oh, this is juicy, right? Because not only did he have the letters, he had his response letters, because it was old school typing. So he had the copies of that. And I got lost in these letters, and there were so many letters from people that had these dreams, just like what you talk about. Like, was this a dream or was this a memory? And so much so that there's a whole chapter in this book about dreams or memories, because people really have similar experiences with that. So it kind of makes you wonder, like, what do we do in our sleep? Maybe we're not always attached here to our bodies.
I think that's absolutely true. I mean, in my dreams, I've walked on the moon. I played the drums. In one of my dreams, Katie, I was Ringo on the stage playing live with the Beatles, and the song was called "And I Do, Yes I Do, Yes I Do," and there is no such song. And
maybe on another life there is.
John, Paul, and George were in front of me. I was on the drum riser. My dream was in black and white, and I am a drummer my whole life. And I was playing drums with the Beatles to a song that doesn't exist in Beatleland. So
it doesn't exist here, but it might exist somewhere else. I mean, you hear that, right? That maybe all of us we can exist in everything and everywhere, every animal, every plant. I'm like, well, maybe.
I think so. I was
cool
one of my favorite.
Can I have your autograph?
That was one of my favorite dreams. All right, before we really get into letters of light, love and light, I just want to read in the back a really wonderful review that our mutual friend Kathy Martin gave you on the book, and I'm going to use my little light right here. Finally, a book that opens a window into the extraordinarily complex world of UFO contact experiencers. Through the correspondence files of pioneer researcher, psychologist, and hypnotherapist Leo Sprinkle Ph.D., we gain insight into contact with non-humans and the varieties of astonishing phenomena associated with it. This fascinating book is truly a page-turner. Kathleen Martin. And of course, for those of you who don't know, she is the niece of Betty and Barney Hill. And I thought that was really sweet, Katie, that she gave you such a nice quote.
She's a sweet lady. Yeah, she's a sweet lady.
She is. So tell us how, I know you befriended him and you were tight with him and you knew him up until the end of his life. Tell us about how did you give birth to this book?
In a dream, of all things. You mentioned dreams and dreaming. Yeah, in a dream. Yeah. So I do a lot of lucid dreaming. I always have. But like I said, I was just getting lost in these letters, and Dr. Leo Sprinkle would sign his letters, Love and Light Leo. It was kind of his signature. And I woke up one day and I'm like, letters of love and light, and it was cool to have it finished before Leo passed.
Did he get to read it?
He got to read it. He was very proud of it. And one of my most prized possession actually is right here in my cabinet. Wait, hold on. Take it out, but it's dated right before he passed away. I've never shared this on the show before, so
very cool.
But yeah, it's dated January 19th, 2021. So right before he passed, he said, "Dear Katie, thank you so much for the package that arrived today. Thank you so much for the copy of your book. And thank you for focusing on the many letters received over the years and for focusing on Leo's work." I love how he talked about himself in the first.
That's you like are Trump. A jewel, Trump does the,
and
Trump
I am grateful to receive this book. I love you. May the book go well. Sales and reviews. Love and light, Leo. So
did you dream Love and Light?
Treasure this. I did. I dreamed the title of it, and I just kind of felt like I wanted to honor his lifetime of work, and because he was such a gracious man of his time and his spirit and his energy. And I also thought, I would go to the archives and take hundreds of photos, go back, read them, put them in files. The letters from children were amazing. There were drawings from children. His response letters were really interesting because you could see through the decades, from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s into his train of thinking, because he's talking to all the experts in the field. So I was really curious to see how his perceptions changed or what his beliefs were. So that was fascinating. But I thought, if I find these little snippets interesting, and that's what I tried to do with the book. Like, I tried to pull out things that I felt were fascinating, ET descriptions, craft descriptions, implants, motives. It's hard to tell the motives of what's going on here, but I tried through the letters what other people had to say about it, including Leo, on hypnosis from children, Leo's responses, those kind of things. So yeah, it was just really 3 years of my life just kind of dedicated to really being fascinating with what people had to say and the commonalities. Because at the end of the day, I think as researchers and investigators, that's what we're looking for, to talk to other people and what happened to you, what have you seen, what have you experienced, and try to put the pieces together, so to speak, and look for those commonalities across the board. So it was really a cool journey for me.
Did you ever ask him if he knew Dr. John Mack or had ever met Dr. John
He did.
Mack?
Yeah, he sure did.
Because those two
I'll have to
guys,
see if there's
they
a
were
photo.
probably the leaders in America in that field, right?
Yeah.
The two.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so you've put together a really wonderful slideshow for us, and Race, our producer, is going to show. So take it away, Katie, and just call out
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
which photo you want, and Race will pull it up
okay.
on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned it, but for my family and I, we were threatened and warned not to talk about what happened out there on that ranch. So we never knew anybody knew anything about it until I purchased that book, and it was known at the slide number 3 Race. Back in the day, it's a small town out in Elbert County, Colorado, so they dubbed it the Clearview Ranch. That's the cover of the APRO Bulletin and the APRO files. But these are just some of the headlines from back in the day. Clearview is close encounter capital of the U.S. Does one
Wow.
town have UFO monopoly?
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
to find these, and the way I came across this whole big pile of newspaper articles, here's an important thing to also understand. This was a 60-acre cattle ranch, but this phenomenon just didn't occur on this ranch property. It's the whole area of Elbert County, from Franktown to Elizabeth to Kiowa, even to Rama, Simla, this whole area. So, there was a lot. Oh, I have an Excel spreadsheet of over 200 people pulled from these newspaper articles that experience cattle mutilations. Linda Moulton Howe was an investigative journalist at the time out there in Colorado, and this is where she kind of got her start out here. In fact, George Yarnell and Bill Wall, the sheriff and the undersheriff out there in Elbert County, are featured in her film A Strange Harvest. So, to meet Linda finally last year at Contact in the Desert for the first time really came full circle for me. But Ray, slide number 1 kind of talks about some of the similarities and some of the phenomenon that are very similar to the Skinwalker Ranch, and those right there, the compilation of articles that I got from the Bill Waugh's widow Jean out in Florida. She had a whole envelope just stocked full of all of these articles she had saved all these decades, and she was gracious enough to let me take them home and copy of them all and ship them back to her. But one of the first things reported on the ranch were these strange humming sounds and bangs underground. Of course, the cattle mutilations were almost occurring daily. Colorado Bureau of Investigations was involved. NORAD was aware. And it wasn't just cattle, but it was horse and sheep and even dog. I found an article about a mutilated dog. People were arming themselves in fear they were going to go to humans next. These strange, snowless, dry dirt circles. That's something my sister and I experienced, and we'll talk about. Craft and orb sightings for decades off of this property and in the area. Sasquatch creatures, crypto creatures from these large birds, paranormal activity, the menacing helicopters, which, they were seen often. I don't know if they were in connection with the mutilations or what. This is something we'll talk about. Definitely a military presence. 2 types of ETs spotted on the property. I did not witness that personally, but other adults reported seeing 2 types, the Nordic and these tubey guys that might be like an AI combo. This mysterious blanket of metal found, strange disappearing boxes. So a lot of activity, very high strangeness. So
Remarkable stuff. What was
Yeah.
that blanket? What was the blanket of metal? I mean, what does that mean?
Yeah, it was just, in these articles that I got, and I believe it is photo number 12. This was the actual article. So race photo number
Race number
12.
12.
There it is. Mysterious blanket of metal found in field south of Raymond. Now, this is the height of all this strange activity and is very unusual. There's a photograph of it.
Yeah.
I've tried to reach out to these people. It was taken away and tested, and who knows where this metal is, but very strange. So it's just one other kind of strange little piece of the puzzle there. Not a lot on that because, like often happens, but we do have that photograph, which is pretty cool that we at least have the article and the photograph to document that happened.
Wow.
But if we can go to slide number 5, Race, and we'll just kind of talk about the location of the ranch itself. So the big red star there on the top is the Elbert County Ranch. Since Beyond Skinwalker refers to it as the Rocky Mountain Ranch, I kind of adopted that, knowing that we'll get the most exposure. So I just thought, well, we'll go with Rocky Mountain Ranch. But on the left, there is the Air Force Academy, and we have Peterson Air Force Base, Scrivener, Fort Carson, of course, Cheyenne Mountain, NORAD, and then something that is not on the map, but is a little further south of Fort Carson, down from Cheyenne Mountain, is Butte, which houses a large collection of our military helicopters. So the location of this ranch is interesting, especially in the mid to late 70s across I-25 and through the Black Forest, which the Black Forest there right below the star has its fair share of UFO sightings and reportings and cryptids as well. But the Air Force owned a lot of that property. And so what I've been really focused on for over a decade now is how much of this activity is Black access government projects and how much of it is actual paranormal, unexplainable activity. And what makes it really convoluted is I think both things were going on at the same time. And the reason I believe that is due to my research at Dr. Leo Sprinkles and some of the kind of clues I have found in the notes and some of the research I've done through, Pioneers research as well.
Katie, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I hate to interrupt you because you were in such a great world there. We went a little bit over, so we have to pay some bills and show a few spots. So Race, let's do that, and we'll come back with Katie Paige in a minute.
Hey, UFO conference enthusiasts. We've got another great event for you in 2024. The Saucers and Aliens Kansas UFO Day in Dimension G is being held in the UFO capital of Kansas, Geneseo, on July 6th. This is a fun festival in the middle of nowhere. There will be a parade, decorated yards, costumes, vendors, speakers, and a showing of the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still. Appropriately, an 8-foot-tall statue of Gort and a statue of Plateau will be dedicated. This will be the only museum in the U.S. with these custom-made statues. If you'd like to donate to the statue project or attend the event, visit GeneseoMuseum.com. That's GENESEO Museum.com. Be sure to bring your camera when you attend the event. That's GeneseoMuseum.com.
The UNX Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Cathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full-spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the UNX Network website at unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com.
This is Margie Kay, and I'd like to say thank you to all of our KUNX show hosts, staff, listeners, and viewers for making us number 1 on Paranormal Talk Radio.
And welcome back to Paranormal Tonight. And we are on tonight with Katie Paige. Race, let's bring little Katie back there. Sorry, we have to pay some bills around here. So
Oh, I get it. I know. I get on this topipic.
no,
Off
no,
I
that was
go.
awesome. So do you want to go back to slide 5? That
Yeah, let me go
military
back. Yeah, let's go back to
race?
slide
Slide
5.
5.
So
There we go. Yeah.
there
Go
we
ahead.
go. Yeah. So I was just saying, the location is really interesting. And, one of the big things I've tried to figure out, like I said, is how much of this is government Black Access Project and how much of this is unexplained phenomena. And it's important to note that this property sat vacant for over 10 years. So I'm thinking if the government wanted to gobble it up, they could have purchased it, but I don't know. It's just very mysterious. On the other hand, in Dr. Leo Sprinkle's full files, if we go to slide number 6, this is in Dr. Leo Sprinkle, PhD's handwriting here. And basically, Bill Wall was the undersheriff out there in Elbert County at the time. And he says, Bill Wall, the undersheriff, wants to talk to someone, has seen ships going into the ground, boxes, mutilations being done. Nobody will talk, doesn't want investigation or publicity. They didn't want the town, the location known. That's why it was known as the Clearview Ranch. No stigma. Credentials are an important factor. They didn't want to ruin people's reputations by this stuff. John, who was a friend of, he was living on the ranch from my childhood, so it was from that particular property, would go back. NORAD colonel said bluntly to forget about it and to shut up. And the Air Force head has a directive to handle UFOs and Bigfoot.
Wow.
So, and if we go to slide number 7, this gets even more interesting. This is also in Dr. Leo Sprinkle's hand. Warren, and the last name was redacted out. I'm hoping to get that last name, and maybe I can track Warren down, because in David Marler, who has the National UFO Historical Research Center outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico, just recently acquired the original APRO files. So I can't wait to get there and get these unredacted versions. So hopefully I can maybe find Warren. But he was from Camp Carson. So my first question was always, why do we have a soldier from Camp Carson on the ranch property? But he visits the ranch. He felt something wrong, wouldn't go into the woods. Something took over his mind, made him walk towards the woods, would release him, and he would run back. And this did this to him 5 times. What's fascinating is John, the gentleman that was referred in the last slide. He was one of he lived on that ranch property. He was actually dating the ex-wife of the guy my mom was dating. So it was, it was the 70s. It was one big happy love family,
70s. All you had to say, it was the
70s.
70s.
We had Thanksgivings together. It was all that.
Yeah,
But anyway, he's interesting. He claimed to be from San Francisco, part of the military, the Air Force. And it's interesting in the reports, he talks about illegal LSD, kind of mind control kind of stuff. So I've sort of been really looking into what part or what role the CIA might have, MK Ultra, maybe sound weapons, what was really going on at this ranch, and did it play a role in what was happening out there? On the other hand, we have a lot of this paranormal stuff and orbs flying on and off the property and the mutilations, that I don't think we have good answers for. Chuck Zukowski, Christopher O'Brien, Linda Howe, they've done decades worth of work on this. And I don't think we have clear answers as to what that is. And it's still going on to this day. So definitely a military presence. Now, one of the most interesting things to me, and this is kind of an ongoing kind of thing, but in the APRO bulletin, it mentioned 2 A-70 interceptors that were in pursuit of a UFO. And if you go to slide number 8, Race, the top of that slide right there is where it talks about that in the APRO briefing document. I don't have my glasses on. Let me get them on really quickly. But it basically says, I also understand that 2 National Guard interceptors were up, again, redacted out, and went down while in pursuit of a UFO at night. All of this was just a little unnerving, so I decided I was going to stop my own inquiry. I was just going to quietly mind my own business. That's the sheriff talking. So I did some research on this, talked to Richard Doty, sent a FOIA request out to Kirkland Mishap's office, and got a big thick envelope back. And it's very suspicious. Both pilots ejected and both survived. But if we go to slide number 9, and here you can, that's part of the report I got back in the mail. And this was one of the causes. It says the instructor pilot misidentified the rotating beacon of another aircraft as a student's aircraft. And the instructor hits the tail of the students, both go into a tailspin, both pilots eject, and they lose both of the aircraft. But they never identify anywhere in the radio transcripts in any of these documents, unless it's where it's all blacked out, the what this other aircraft was. And then it goes on to say, if we go to 9A70B, that there were 8 inoperative instrument panels. So here it talks about how after sunset, Red Eye 72 lost 8 of his cockpit instrumentation lights. And so if we go to 9B, that photo there of the panels, I went and found an actual diagram of the A-70 interceptors. And my youngest son right now, he's at Spartan Aviation College, and he's getting his power plant and all that. So I asked Tyler, what do these instruments have in common, and how can they be affected? And he said possibly, now I don't know, I'm not a scientist, and maybe there's somebody out there that knows, but possibly static electromagnetism or static can cause these instruments to go out. But I find it interesting that he had to illuminate his cockpit by a different means as this incident is occurring, and that he lost those. Another interesting thing, if we go to the 9C A7D, was this supposed instructor and student, they were flying over residential neighborhoods out there in Elizabeth, and they had 218 live rounds of 20 millimeter bullets. Now, I don't know, I'm not in the Air Force, I don't know if that's standard practice, but I don't know about you, but I don't want loaded things flying over my house at night. So 9DA70 shows a picture of what one of those rounds looks like.
Oh my God,
And
look at the
so-
size of that thing.
I know. So there were 118 of those, I think it says 118 of those on board that night. So that whole incident is rather suspicious. And what's more, and doing some research, I love researching the 70s. I just think it was a cool era for a lot of reasons. It was before we had cell phones and, all these wonderful CGI technologies and stuff. So I was at David Marler's, and I came across, now this incident, the 2 A7Ds that crashed in Elbert County by the ranch in pursuit of a UFO, happened on November 11th, 1975. And I come across, if we go to the 9F Katie research picture, this is the front page of the National Enquirer on, it says Air Force scrambled jets to intercept UFOs. So they're admitting that they scrambled interceptors. And what this was, if we go to 9E NORAD, this was a 36 page document I found at David Marler's that talks about an incident that occurred on November 11th, 1975, the exact same day as the 2 interceptors, the 2 A7Ds. And in Falconbridge, Ontario, they were watching these anomalous objects on radar for a very long time. They were reported at 26,000 feet and would shoot straight up to 72,000 feet. They were witnessed, like I said, by the radar people. They were radar operators. They were witnessed by military personnel, 7 police officers, civilians on the ground. So they're watching these things. They're traveling 35 nautical miles over the Great Lakes. So they decide to scramble 2 F-106 Delta Darts after these UFOs. And I just find it interesting that they were on the exact same day. Now, in doing research, what happened right after midnight on November 11th, 1975, right after midnight, we have Travis Walton was returned from his abduction that same day. So if you go to the image,
how far was he from this ranch?
Right. Well, he was found in Arizona, right? And so Snowflake, Arizona.
A few hundred miles, a couple of hundred miles.
Right. So Selfridge, Michigan, they're scrambling jets outside of Michigan. And then we have Travis Walton coming back right after midnight that same day in Arizona, Snowflake, Arizona. And then that same day, or, we have jets scrambled in Colorado. So was there some big wave? So there's more research to be done on November 11th, 1975. Something was going on.
Does
It
Travis,
just blows my mind that all three of these events occurred on that same day.
Katie, does Travis Walton know this information?
I don't think I've told him yet. I just
Because he's
recently
going to
kind
be,
of put
he'll
all
be a
those
contact.
pieces
You got to tell him a contact the day you were found. This happened
Right.
in Colorado. You should tell him.
I love Travis. When I was doing the Mars program with the MUFON Archive Research and Redacting, I kind of led that group we spent 3 years, a whole team of 15 of us at MUFON, redacting all the old paper files. And in going through all those old files for MUFON, I came across all of Travis Walton's original stuff, some of which he hadn't had.
Wow.
I think we were in Irvine at the time, or Vegas. I'm not sure where it was. They all blend together after a while. But I was just so excited. We went and got a flash drive and copied it on. I was so honored to give him all that stuff back because it's his story.
Yes.
He should have it all.
Absolutely.
And it's hard because there was a lot of pushback from debunkers that were trying to fill class and that and was all in there. But I think Travis, he went through a lot. And I think these two interceptors, or these 4 interceptors scrambled that very same day, really leads a lot of credibility to Travis's case.
Story. That's a remarkable
I'll have to make sure to tell him next month when I see him at
You
contact.
have to when you see him.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Do you have some more slides you want to show us?
I do. Let's see. Where can we go from here? So
Katie symptoms,
we could talk
maybe?
about,
You want to do Katie symptoms? Let's do that one.
We could do Katie symptoms. Yeah.
Let's do Katie symptoms. Number 10, right?
Because
I wanted to ask
I
you.
don't like talking about Katie, but there's some pictures of me back during the ranch years.
This is Katie. This is your story to tell. So let's tell it.
Yeah, I know. I like to talk about all the other witnesses because I was so young. But
here's your chance.
Yeah. Well, the scariest night on the ranch for me and my sister was the boys' mother's birthday. It was a weekend night. The adults were in the front room very late at night. The 3 boys, my sister and I, were in the boys' bedroom, and that hum sound started up. Power goes out of the house, and I see the brightest light I've ever seen outside the window. And at that time, it was like this out of every orifice of the house, and there's no power, and it sounded like this mechanical voice. Basically, attention, we have allowed you to remain. We have interfered with your lives very little. Don't cause us to take action, which you will regret. Your friends will be instructed to remain silent concerning us. And my mom took that very seriously. And we, don't talk about what's going on there to anybody. And was at the military testing some sort of sound weapons? I don't know. But that very night, we drove back to our house, which was about an hour away from the ranch. And I walked in the front door, collapsed to the ground, and was paralyzed and catatonic for a few minutes. I couldn't speak. That's when the migraine headaches, they were severe, where you have the tunnel vision, the vomiting, all that stuff. Finally went through biofeedback training to get a handle on them, thank goodness. Ringing in the ears, reoccurring nightmares, the shadow figures in the room. Never slept alone after that. Always slept with big sister until I was 12, and she moved away. She moved to Wyoming. No, don't leave me. The lucid vivid dreams, which we talked about, this extrasensory abilities, or, at the time, I just thought everybody saw everybody's lives in little movies in their heads. I just thought that was normal. I didn't realize till it was much later. I was like, oh, not everybody sees that, does that, whatever. Sense of being watched was super intense. And really that lasted up until my early 40s, late 30s, early 40s, where I always felt watched. And then the one encounter I had with this strange, mysterious blue orb happened actually in 2013 when I really started taking deep dives back into this phenomena. So, some of those things, paranormal stuff all the time, that's just sort of the norm. And I think a lot of people that have these experiences have that similar kind of thing where it's just this haunted life kind of thing.
Do you think you were chosen, selected, or it was just random chance that you happened to be there?
No,
as a child?
just like Kathleen Marden and MUFON's ERT team, I think, through the decades, we see these patterns, family histories,
Right.
where my grandfather had a sighting that was investigated by Heineck out of Wisconsin in the early
Wow.
60s.
Wow.
My family and I had an encounter in Illinois. My grandfather, Navy people. I don't know if this is attached to military families or people who served, but I hear it often. So I think that's interesting. I don't know. I don't feel like I was chosen or special, or again, we kind of touched on it earlier, where there was a lot of trauma in my past, and so is it just does it, and for children too, I mean, children are open to these things, and I was 9 to 12 years old, so I don't know, but it affected so many people. I think that's why for me it's important that I have that list of over 200 other witnesses, because it's not just my story, it's this whole area that was experiencing things, but for some reason it does seem to sort of follow me wherever I go. It doesn't matter where I am, I have like things happen around me. So I don't know why that is. But even as a MUFON investigator, we would, get reports from people out camping or whatever they may be doing out there. And certain people will be more affected by things than others. So what is that? I'm not sure, but it
I
could
think
just be that we're willing to be open to it. I don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, are you aware of any other researchers investigating? I think you were the chosen one. I think you were the chosen one to tell the story.
Oh, for the Rocky Mountain Ranch, for sure.
Yeah,
I think, and I am proud of that fact. And I'm very happy that Beyond Skinwalker is looking at these other locations, because, not just here in the United States, but Paul Sinclair over at the UK and other places around the world have these high strangeness locations, and to look at the similarities between them. Most of them are very highly magnetic, have aquifers or water features, having certain geological similarities, quartz crystals, gold, sandstone. These, I mean, are they just the right ingredients to let us observe and interact with the phenomenon? Is it whatever this phenomenon is, it is attracted to these locations because of these commonalities? There's also this really interesting elk piece. I mean, we have the Carl Higdon case in the 70s out there in Wyoming. Elk hunter he had these boxes. That's a whole other thing, these strange boxes. But if we can go to the slide 16, what's interesting about this and doing Beyond Skinwalker, it's afforded me the opportunity to do some interview with some locals. And this was a sketch done. This event happened in November of 2021, approximately. He was out there elk hunting in Elbert County. And this was during the day. And what's interesting, this is a firefighter, a very credible witness. He's lived there for decades and decades, interviewed his mother, a business owner, super credible man. And there's parts in Elbert County in the Ponderosa Pines where he just gets these uneasy feelings that he won't even enter into these certain areas, even in the daytime. But he was elk hunting, and he sees this red orange glow, is how he described it. And he sees a very metallic, shiny object with this red glow, 4 to 5 feet in diameter, 6 to 8 feet off the ground. And he said the top, he said they were two bundt cakes pans, one on top of the other, silent, no sound. The top was spinning counterclockwise, the bottom was spinning clockwise. And he looks away for a second, looks back, and they just disappeared. They just vanished. And this was just a recent sighting in August. Just this last August, there was a mutilation in the farm or the ranch next to his. So these mutilations are still occurring out there in the area, just not to the height they were. And to get to talk with other witnesses that are still having phenomena out there has been just incredible. This didn't stop in the late 70s. It's continuing on to this day.
Right. I enjoyed so you were in one episode, season 1 of Beyond Skinwalker. I saw that, and I think I emailed you and said I really enjoyed it. And I know you're going to be in 2 episodes in season 2, but for those of people out there who didn't see your episode in season 1, because some very weird stuff happened, you want to just do a little synopsis of that night.
Yeah, I mean, what an incredible experience for me, because what had happened, the people that own the ranch now had bought it from the family from my childhood, right? Okay. And so before COVID, I had left them a note in their delivery box, and then COVID hit, shut everything down. Right. And then the next thing you know, I'm hearing from Beyond Skinwalker that, hey, we heard about this in your story, and yes, contact them. And I was so excited when I heard the news that they were open to meeting me and to maybe doing this project, because I knew nothing about the history of their location. So they did not let me go or speak to them or nothing until cameras were rolling. So what you see there is my first time back. And I just remember all the emotions. I mean, I'm investigating over 10 years, all the memories, all the fears, all that stuff. And it was getting dark, dusk out, and I just wanted to get on the ranch. And I have to kind of giggle because I think they were wanting an emotional, like crying reaction or whatever, but I really kind of got like, it was so overwhelming. And then to have the radio responses that I did, and some
Right.
of the memories coming back, and that I kind of got into this like, okay, I'm a grown up now. You're not going to scare me anymore. Who are you? What are you? And what do you want? And then, season 2 will be coming out shortly, so I can't re-sign non-disclosures until after the episodes air. But if you haven't seen it, we had David Morehouse, and they did it, the biggest remote view ever done in the history of the country at that ranch. And they did a whole little segment on the History Channel. You can go to thehistorychannel.com and find it. And thankfully, they're bringing that back on. I can at least give you that clue for season 2, and they're bringing that back in because it's so important. And David Morehouse did incredible work on that remote view. There were over 70 remote viewers from around the world remote viewing that location. And they went back and tried to remote view the night of that disembodied voice. So the results of that were just phenomenal, to the point where I was like, I mean, it was blowing my mind.
Yeah, I was scared for you, like, and I knew it wasn't live, but I was like, because I had just met, I met you, and then I was watching, I was like, God, run, Katie, run, get out of the house.
Right.
Get in your car.
Right. Well, I didn't know, because I knew the house was in the same location, but it didn't look exactly the same to how I remembered it.
But
and
the
it
house
wasn't
remembered
until
you. It remembered
you.
you.
It remembered me. But what they did is they built additions to the left, to the right, and to the front. But the original house is within the additions. Right.
Okay.
So they put those radio equipments in the original house, and it
Right.
was creepy.
It remembered you, man. That's for sure.
Yeah.
We have a few minutes left. Tell us, so you and I will both be at Contact in the Desert. Get your tickets now, contactinthedesert.com.
Yes, we'd love to see you out there.
What are some of the topics that you'll? I know you're on the Women of Ufology panel, and
by the way,
am
I on about that?
Well, hold on. By the way, take a guess who thought of that. Yes, that was my idea. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for that, because talk about full circle. I mean, being on a panel with Linda Moulton Howe, I'm so on, and these other wonderful women in the field. Kelly Chase will be hosting that.
Right.
Yvonne Smith, I got to meet Yvonne Smith, and she does incredible work with experiencers in hypnosis. Alexis Brooks, Dr. Desiree Hertek. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting her, or Kim Carlsberg, but it's just going to be an amazing panel. And then I'm on the second Paranormal High Strangeness panel, hosted by Ben Hansen. And of course, we have Dwayne Olinger from Blind Frog, and he's such a cool guy. Who else is on that? Andrew Collins, Craig Campobasso, Eric Renkin. So that should be a cool discussion. And then I'll be giving my talk on the Colorado Rocky Mountain Ranch on Monday. So
what time?
And I think you're speaking on Monday too.
Monday is why I think my father built UFOs for the military, because I'm pretty sure my father was involved. My talk is Monday at 10:30. What do you know what time yours is on the Monday?
I want to say it's right after that. Maybe it's at 2. I don't have the
schedule. I hope we're not.
But I know I'm after you.
Good.
And I think it's cool because I'm doing the government cover-ups as well. So,
okay. Well, if you come to mine, I'll come to yours. How about that?
Deal.
Yeah.
Let's shake.
Yeah, I need people sitting in the audience. Last few minutes. So, as you know, Steve Bassett and I created the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance last year. Mm-hmm. You were one of our earliest and most wonderful, and probably the most and one of the more attractive founding members that we have. How do you feel? What given that disclosure is hopefully imminent? How do you feel Hollywood should be embracing the Disclosure Alliance? People like you, experiencers, researchers. What can Hollywood do to help move this cause forward? What do you think?
Right. It's such an important cause, and there's nobody better out there. They can't stop the snowball rolling down the hill. It's gaining momentum. They can't keep us quiet. They can't keep all of us. I think research, credibility, that's why I love archives and research and documents, because that's an important piece of the puzzle too, because that has to be part of the but what blows my mind is the history of ufology. Even it's so important that gets represented correctly. 1977 Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like that was to me there's been some good UFO movies.
That's the best one.
I want to see that is the best one.
I've seen it 50 times. 50, and I cry at the end, Katie, every single time. 50 times. I always cry at the end.
Oh, it's so great. I just watched it recently again myself. What's funny, so you got to think about that. So 1975 to 1978, I'm living the ranch. In 77, Close Encounters comes out. I think it's a documentary.
Right?
I didn't know.
I know. You were living that stuff.
I was living
crazy.
it. Like, wow, cool documentary. They just made a movie.
Well, Alan Hynek was Stephen's consultant. You know that. Dr. Hynek is even at the end with
his little cameo
with his little pipe. Right. Yeah, I think that's great. And I've become pretty good friends with Paul Hynek. So I think that's pretty cool. Last thing is, I know you want to talk about Rocky Mountain Ranch Research Foundation. What is it? What it does? And what would you like to tell people?
Just getting this off the ground. So,
what is it about? What's it about?
Well, I'm gathering a team of people. I've been working with Trey Hudson. I like talking with James Keenan. We have Dr. Simeon Hine out here in Boulder. So I just want to get a good team together to actually get together, put our heads together, go do experiments on the ranch, take a camera with me, take all of you guys with me, put videos out there so everybody can help me along this journey. So it's my new baby and I'm getting it off the ground right now. So Rocky Mountain Ranch Research Foundation will be a nonprofit foundation to help in finding answers for this phenomenon. And,
that's great. Best of luck. HD Hollywood Disclosure is also a nonprofit. We just recently got approved to be a nonprofit. Awesome. How can people reach you if they want to contact you?
Right now, you can find me at katiepaige.net. So KatiePaige.net. And you can contact me there. And you can also find out more about the Rocky Mountain Ranch Research Foundation. And that website will be coming on shortly. I'm building it right now. So
best of luck. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Of luck. It's hard to launch a nonprofit. I did it this past year. I wish you all the best. I will see you, my little friend. I'll see you at contactinthedesert.com. Get your tickets now. Thank you very much, Katie. Thank you, Katie Paige, for being you and wonderful stories. And thank you for putting those images together. You're my only client. You're my only guest so far that was the most organized with the artwork. I really appreciate it.
I try.
Great job. Be well. I'll see you soon. Thank you, everyone, for watching live from Hollywood. It's Paranormal Tonight. Really fun episode with the wonderful Katie Paige. Check out her book, Letters of Love and Light. Check out my book, After They Came, Amazon. Dan Harary, author.com, danhararyauthor.com, and HollywoodDisclosureAlliance.org. Contactinthedesert.com for tickets. Thank you all for watching. And I really love doing this show, man. I got to tell you, it's been a few months now, and I'm getting my groove in here. And I'm having a really fun time. I appreciate everyone who's been watching and supporting all the nice notes and emails I've been getting since January. Thank you, Race Hobbs, my brother, my producer. Thank you, Margie K, owner of the UNX Network. I'll see you guys next week. Next week, a week from tonight, is a very good friend of mine, Mark Glenn Moore. Mark is a very successful businessman, and he's about 60 years old. Since the age of 5, he's had a relationship with Pleiadians, beautiful, tall, white Nordic Pleiadians. And he has remarkably wonderful stories. That's a week from tonight, Mark Glenmore. Thank you for watching. Dan Harary, live from Hollywood, Paranormal Tonight. I'll see you next Thursday night. Thank you very much.